Oh, yes. This is the Hardcore Marketing Show. I'm Casey Cheshire, your host for this epic journey. And today's show, sponsored by Cheshire Impact, on a mission to help people maximize their use of Pardot and Salesforce. CheshireImpact.com. Bam. Boom. There it is. All right. We're on. We're cooking. We're ready to rock this thing. My guest today is amazing. And she is a performance-focused digital marketing professional, right? It's not just about just doing marketing here or there. It's like, let's make results happen. She's a thought leader, digital marketing strategist, and, you know, the experience in sales and marketing alignment, advertising, promotion, data analysis, all the verticals. But what I really like about her, and I want to get it more into this in the conversation, is that she can operate at that 30,000 foot level and also swoop in like a helicopter and operate at that ground level, right? And it's like the tactical and the strategic. So that's what we're getting into today. Director of Marketing Communications at Thrasio, Sandra Rand. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Psyched to do this.
Yes. Like there's so much to talk about. There's so much to say. And let me just grab this thing here. Okay. Here we go. Here you go. Thor's hammer. Take that and smash for me. Okay, you got it? Okay, good. There you go.
Bringing it down.
All right. Smash for me some kind of marketing myth, bogus strategy, misconception. Set the record straight once and for all.
So my big thing right now is that the demand gen playbook is tired.
Ooh. It's tired.
We've been there, done that. You know, we need a new look. I think the pandemic was the absolute forcing function that performance marketers needed, B2B marketers really needed, to just rethink the playbook. I think, you know, we've been cycling through ebooks and white paper downloads and webinars, and, you know, now with everyone staying at home, our in-person meetings are forced to be digital. And so we are webinared out. We are in digital event overload. And I think there's a ton of opportunity for people to get creative and sort of rethink these things. I mean, I've been hearing so much, how many people download an ebook and never read it,
right?
Or sign up to download an ebook and then it sits in your email, or how many people, you know, sign up for a webinar, never attend, say, that's okay, I'm going to get the slides and the recording later. And then they never access that information either. It is tired. We need to create something more innovative, more creative, more engaging, and just be really respectful of people's time and their balance right now. We are all trying to do a million things, stay healthy,
right?
Stay at home, probably, you know, try to have some semblance of a life. We're all juggling way more, and sort of the ebook webinar cycle is tired. We're done with it. We got to do something else.
Yeah. So I see that, right? It's like continuing. I feel like we're doing more too. I feel like I've even been doing more webinars lately. And I kind of like them and I enjoy them, but you're right. Like the standard play, we can't. So, I mean, do you have any magic answers for us? How do we get more creative with this? What do we do?
I mean, so I think, you know, we got to get out of our comfort zone. We see numbers and we correlate leads with success. And I think it's time to really sort of reconcile what's happening at the bottom of the funnel. Are these people really converting at a place that you want them to? They're bringing in leads, but are these leads high quality? And what are they doing at those really pivotal points of the funnel? And so it's like, you know, if webinars are doing well, which don't get me wrong, there's plenty of people that are saying that they're still working for them, but it's time to recreate the content around that. No one wants to be spoken at with a slide deck anymore. You know, people are you'd be lying if you said that you pay attention and focus on a webinar without clicking around on another browser, opening other tabs, doing some work while you listen, and you sort of half listen. And, you know, it needs to be open and engaging. I think people are craving more connection with thought leaders, you know, opening things up to a Q&A, allowing audience members to be on camera. You know, you get that webinar vision on Zoom or on GoToMeeting where everyone's sort of cloaked and the only people you see are the speakers. And I think to connect with people, you really need to open things up and create more of a community around your content. I think, around ebooks and white papers, like open that stuff up, make it available for consumption, create it around microsites where you can actually click and, track the behavior. People download a PDF or don't download a PDF. They let it sit in their email and you have no idea how or in what way they read all the hard work that you've put into creating that piece. So open it up, put it on a URL, a microsite, track the consumption of the content, and then create more content that branches off from that gets them even further down the funnel. I just think that there's opportunities to get more creative, stop gating everything, stop hiding behind your forms, and really create some serious value that isn't a trade-off for a lead number.
Right. It's so true. And as you're describing, just like, come on, just like get this content out there, let people consume it. And they don't want the slide deck thrown at them for an hour. And as you're mentioning that, I was literally on a sales call yesterday. Really cool guy, really cool dude. But like, and they said, if you join this call, we will give you $45. So I was like, okay.
Yeah.
On Amazon, like, okay.
Sure.
and it's almost like, if you're going to do that, like make sure they're talking to the right people. And I was trying to like, dude, I don't want to waste your time, but if I need to be here for the $45, like I'm getting work done, it's like, it doesn't,
Right.
it's not work. And I wasn't even on a webinar, but webinar, even less one-on-one, really, he's really not asking me any questions on a webinar. I can kind of hide out in the background, man, no one's paying attention. And then the content, just like get it out there. Like the whole gating, it's like content needs to be consumed, right? Most people don't consume any content. And the fact that, like, I've never heard someone say it this way, but it's like the truth, which is, okay, even personally, like that's an interesting webinar topic, register. Can I make it? Maybe not. Doesn't matter. Oh, I can't make it. I'll get the recording. I don't even know. I might have deleted the record. I don't even know.
Right.
I forgot about it. And I never got that content.
Right. Especially if the team isn't agile enough to deliver the content, the recording that day or the next day. If you send it to me a week and a half later, sorry, I'm completely disengaged at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I think it's interesting. I think that there's a lot that people can do. And frankly, like we're doing ourselves a disservice as the audience too. I'm not learning from a webinar I'm only like one quarter paying attention to. So I think like I'm most engaged when I'm talking to someone like this and learning from thought leaders, like on a one-to-one or one-to-few basis. And I know that stuff doesn't scale. And that's what scares B2B marketers. We need things that get more eyeballs and get more visibility. And, I think you have to do the things that don't scale as well to really get the most out of them. And really, I think your sales team will have a higher quality pool of people to pull from, when they start self-selecting that they're ready to work with you. So,
yeah, it's a tough thing to talk about. Like, is it going to scale or not? I was talking to, I don't know if you know Daniel Murray. He's pretty big on LinkedIn. I was talking to him and he was just doing the math with me. He was like, you know what? You get 1,000 leads and, you only convert 1% of them. That's like, you had to wade through 990 leads to get to like the 10 that were opportunity. It's like gross. So to do things like you're saying, just for a lead number, it doesn't pay off. It's not worth it.
Right. And your poor SDRs are cranking away at, trying to connect with those people that have no interest. Because I downloaded one ebook, it seems like I'm qualified and ready to buy your business. I'm not, or buy your tool or your software. Sure. I'm like, one ebook downloaded does not a qualified lead make.
So how do we fix, maybe we'll start with the webinars, then we'll go to the content. How do we fix webinars? Maybe just like throw out some ideas that we can kind of riff off of. Like, you've already started that too, but like, okay, we said like, don't do the slide deck, just speaking at me, show some faces. What other kind of things do you think we could?
Yeah, I think it's, creating an open Q&A forum. Like people, when they attend webinars or when they are looking for a piece of content to answer a need or a challenge that they have, it's because they have one or two very specific questions largely. Sure, there's tons of people that want to attend a webinar to learn more about a given topic, but by and large, they might have that one nagging thing that they're trying to figure out. And maybe they're attending a webinar to hear that one proof point or that one clarification to help them along their way. And so I think that we need to not be afraid of opening up like Q&As and allowing other people to chime in. I'd rather rather hear someone say, hi, my name is Joe and I'm from Michigan and here's the challenge that I'm having, rather than have a moderator sort of interpret the question and address that. And, I think the other thing that we can do as content creators and thought leaders is create a community where people can have sort of a chat on the side. Maybe other attendees can answer questions instead of bogging you down with a question that only helps one person instead of 10 people, or something along those lines. I just think opening up the lines and creating sort of a multi-channel experience where we may have a webinar, but we also have this chat box on the side where you guys can interact with each other. I think that is an opportunity that would sort of change the game a little bit instead of making it very sort of one-sided.
I found even on Zoom, and decent webinar app, but same thing. Like by default, people trying to chat goes to just the panelists. Like, I don't want that. I want you chatting amongst yourselves. And I keep saying, like, if I'm boring, at least you can entertain yourselves. Like, do that, but you have to manually switch it. So I'm constantly like, switch it. So it doesn't just send it to me, send it to everyone, chat amongst yourself. So when people are saying like, hey, I'm in Australia, or hey, I'm in, Oregon, you're like, that's cool. Like everyone else should see that, not just me. That doesn't help everyone else. Like that makes it more intriguing for everyone, but it's like, it's not the default though. The old playbook is the default.
Yeah, for sure. It's the, I want to control the scenario. I want to control the funnel. I want to control the form and the content. And, I think just relinquishing those little bits of control where you allow, the people that are listening to your webinar to communicate. I think, very full disclosure, I don't know if people still do this, but earlier in my career, we used to listen to webinars and maybe go on Twitter with the hashtag. I don't necessarily see webinars with like a, hey, join the hashtag and talk amongst yourselves, or a conference. You would go to a conference and talk amongst yourselves on Twitter with the hashtag. And I don't know if people aren't doing that anymore. And I think that it's time to revisit the value of that. Maybe Twitter's not the right, not the right channel for that anymore. But yeah, I think that, there's a lost opportunity to open things back up because we're nervous about not having control.
It's a great point about control. It's a really great point. We talk lead numbers, we talk results, but is it just us trying to be in control of things? And maybe we need to just try not let it go a little bit and let people do what they want to do and not try to force them through some shopping mart where they have to go through this and this and this. It's like, oh, let them roam around.
Yeah, I think, we have forecasts that we have to hit. And I think we have lead numbers that we're nervous about not hitting. And so that sort of forces us to keep everything in a nice, neat box where we can sort of manage that and move it, further down the funnel. And I just think, especially now where we're all home, or a lot of people are home and a lot of people are not sort of getting that interaction from like a professional and workplace standpoint, there's creating more opportunity for community to be built around your brand and your content and your thought leadership will just benefit a brand far more than sort of keeping things one-sided.
Oh, totally. Totally. I got this crazy idea that I've been thinking about. I feel like, have you ever been to Twitch? Have you heard of that?
Yeah. I'm not intimately familiar, but I know of it.
Right. Have you ever watched anyone on there?
So is it mostly video game people?
Mostly.
Or is it, okay. Yes. So my husband does more of that, but yes, I'll look over his
shoulder. Is he on there? Is he like a Twitch rock star?
No, I'm
playing Call of Duty all day.
I'm trying to encourage him to do that. I'm like, another little income source is not the worst thing in the world.
If you're going to be playing games all day, at least make money off of it. Come on, man. Let's go. Get to work here.
Yeah.
So I've not so much the Call of Duty, but there's some more strategic games. While I've watched people before I buy it, it's kind of like I'll go research it and watch someone really smart just playing and be like, okay, this isn't the preview. This is him actually playing this. So I want to play this too. And I'm like, oh, it's actually intriguing. And there's something about watching someone really good at it play, because then you're like, I'm the opposite. I would be really bad at it and I'm going to suffer, but it's kind of cool to watch him play first, maybe thinking that I could borrow some tips when I go to do mine. But I found that Twitch is very, very interesting because the people on there, even the few couple that I've watched, super nerdy, but really good at managing a crowd, like a crowd of hundreds of people, thousands of people, way more than our silly webinars. Right. And
they're not polished. They're not overthinking it. They're not creating these sort of perfect methods of content. Yeah.
Right. No, hey, Sandra 3642. Hey, good to see you. How's your puppy doing?
Right?
And then somebody donates, hey, thanks, Casey. Thanks for the, the $5. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
While he's still playing something. And
Yeah.
you're like, and then people are voting. There's a poll like, oh, how's this going to go? Or which way should I go on this thing? Should I go left or right? Should I attack those people or not? Let's
Right.
vote. And everyone's
Choose your own
voting.
adventure.
And they're all
Yeah.
commenting like, that'll be terrible.
Right. Could you imagine
Everyone's
a
engaged.
webinar starting out that way? Like, hey, here's the thought leader that we have. Here are the 4 topics we can, like, you guys vote and we'll hash on that topic for the first 30 minutes. Like, I haven't
Totally.
seen any sort of like, anything like that where it's sort of like, hey, choose your own adventure webinar style where we'll talk about the exact topic instead of something at a broader scope.
Seriously. Yeah. I mean, that would be the way to go, right? It's almost like I've heard of like the unconference. Everything is like up in the air. Of course, you may not even go to the unconference because you don't know what it's going to be about. But the idea of like, oh, let's vote with our feet of what you want to hear about. But
Yeah.
just giving people more control. But these Twitch people are so good. And then people are paying to watch them.
It's wild.
They get Amazon Prime. You can use that one subscription and it pays them too. And they're so good at that. You know what else you get? You get points. For every minute or hour you watch, you get like a point. Maybe it's every minute. So you can accumulate their points. They call it whatever they want, like, oh, my bullets or superstar power. You accumulate and you can bet that, you can gamble it on the situation. And I'm like, you can even turn it in for like rewards. I'm like, why don't we do that on webinars?
Yeah, right. Something that intrigues people and gets them more motivated to engage and not just watch. I think watching is,
totally.
We all have sort of fishbowl brains right now, and we're trying to manage a lot of things. And
seriously,
and focus beats multitasking by and large rather. But it's definitely an opportunity.
One of the things I'm like tempted to do, I'm totally going to do this now that I've said it, but like, I'm going to start a Twitch channel for like B2B marketing, because
all right,
what would happen? I don't even know what would happen.
Watch me build this funnel.
Right?
Watch me execute on Facebook ads.
I don't even.
It's actually,
right?
It's very interesting. I have to say the thing that I'm learning most from nowadays are these smaller communities where people are just sort of unveiling their playbook. Like, here's the thing that I'm doing. And this might not be perfect or the right way, but like, it's really hitting marks for me and it's generating engagement and people are into it. And it's people that are just sort of opening the cloak and they're not too precious about, keeping things, there's an interesting dynamic of like having a competitive advantage, but then giving away all your secrets. And there's something in between there that's like really valuable. And so, it would be very interesting. I would watch something like that. It would be something that's totally different.
Totally.
Yeah. Cause you could be developing something that I had never thought of, or I didn't necessarily have the lens to do previously. And it's like, oh, how can I translate that into what my goals are? And it changes what you're doing. It changes the workflow a little bit and the sort of typical cycle of demand gen. And I think, that could definitely open up ideas for a ton of people. I'd be into it.
And like, we could be doing this webinar or this conversation. Yep. Meanwhile, it could be live on Twitch.
That could be cool.
People could be talking about it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. It'd be interesting. Like, all the webinars that ever happen, you could register for it and get the email so you have a reminder, or you just join it anytime. Whatever we're presenting is going to be on this Twitch channel.
This is what we're doing.
Weird. I can't put it into a funnel. I can't track it. Anything, but it seems like a fun way to just get rid of control and just say, here's all the content.
Yeah.
I hope it helps.
This is what we're doing. We're building it. It'd be cool, like doing, takedowns or audits or things of that nature. Just sort of opening it up and being like, this is what I'm doing and this is what it's not working for me. So I'm going to test some stuff and see what else works. Yeah, I like it. That's a cool idea.
Audits and go around and look at some, or just, I can pull up in my spam box and just like shred on it.
Yeah, that'd
my
be
promotions
great.
tab, which is where the people think that they're sending good stuff and actually it's still spam, and be like, okay, look at this email, look at this one.
Yeah. Some of it's crazy. It's so funny. I should have taken a screenshot. I can go back and do it, but at some point today I went into my personal Gmail and there were like 4 emails, promotional emails, one after the other, all started with like the party emoji. So it's like, okay, emojis are a subject line best practice now, apparently. And it's all the party emoji, the one with like the little, 4 different sources.
Guys.
It's like, all right, we're testing emojis now, but diversify from the party emoji.
I mean, do you have a favorite emoji?
Uh,
Like, what's the most emoji
it,
used on your phone? You know, have you seen that thing on Facebook where they're like, pull open your most used emoji?
yeah, I mean, if it's probably the like unamused face, the guy with like the line, the line mouth and like the line eyes.
Oh,
Because
oh yeah,
man,
like
I mean, we're in a
what?
pandemic, life happens, right? And there are so many things that are just not amusing right now. All right, we're doing this
Totally.
live. I'm looking it up. Recently used, is that the same thing? I'm on
Recently
Android.
used, yeah.
So recently used is the guy with the smile with like the sweat droplet, like, oh, that's great. Like that
Oh,
guy.
yeah. Oh, explain that one to me because when they're laughing, it's like laughter, tears of laughter or something. But when you're just smiling and you're sweating off, what does that
I
mean?
think this is like the laughter, like, I'm sweating a little, but I'm smiling. We'll make it
Oh,
work.
like
It's a little
yeah,
nerve wracking. I don't know.
yeah.
That's probably,
Oh,
I don't
awkward.
remember what context I use that in, but
Totally.
apparently that's one I use often.
I like laughter, lightning bolts, the Cheshire fist, like the fist bump, and then my
Nice.
absolute favorite is the wink tongue. So it's like the sticking the tongue out and
All
winking,
the
winking back,
emotions.
right?
I like it.
But I'm just like, I'm kidding with you, but I'm also making fun of you. Like, hey.
Yeah. Yeah. I found that
uh,
there's like, I don't know if you found this, but depending on like at work, I have certain emojis that I go to. My last job, it was like the monkey with the two, like, oh
right.
God, like that one. And this one, or not this one, but like, family and text messages, it's like the unamused face. And then I think this current, I'm at Thrasio now, and the smiley face with the stars for eyes, like, oh my
Yes.
gosh, great. I love that guy.
Yes. Like that's great. You you starry eyed.
Amazing. So
Yeah,
impressed. Yeah.
totally. Now I don't know if I necessarily want to see that in all my subjects, but I
Right.
think it's
Right.
fun. Like I've used a couple, but like man, if you abuse that, then people are gonna
Yeah.
zone that out too. You got to pick the right one too. Just a
Yeah.
party one. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. That one's overused. But the funny thing is, so I had a colleague a couple of years ago test emojis in his LinkedIn description. Like, some people just leave their
In the
title and their
description.
company, and some people will put a whole thing of like who they are, but
Yeah.
add emojis to the description, and his views went up. So I tested it and my views went up. And I was like,
No
you
way.
guys, this is not hard. Like, why are you looking at my profile more? Because I have emojis. I still do it. Why not? It's kind of fun.
You have
But
it in there now?
yeah, I have a little unicorn for Thrasio. We just achieved unicorn status in July. And the typical marketing bar chart up and to the right.
Oh,
But
see,
yeah, test emojis in your title on LinkedIn, and you might get some additional views.
no kidding. Okay, I see them in there. Yeah, you get the bar chart and you get the unicorn. I got to do that, but I have it in my name. I don't know if you saw that
Oh yeah, that's another thing to test. Flip
because
it around.
Cheshire Impact, we're like, it's the fist logo,
I
like
love
it's a
it.
bar
Yep.
chart fist. And so it's like Casey Cheshire fist. So every time you like talk,
Yeah.
you're like fist, fist,
So
fist.
on brand. It's so
So
good.
I'm like owning that. That's
Yeah.
like my emoji.
That's perfect. You don't see a fist bump emoji very much. I don't see a fist bump emoji very much,
No, you don't. We
but
should see more of that.
you
You
should
know,
trademark it.
I should trademark and then call Apple up and be like, oh, by the way, you're
Right.
using my emoji.
Right.
But then they get rid of it off the phones and then I can't use it anymore. So probably,
Mm,
I don't know, maybe I'll just keep it quiet.
yeah.
Um, okay. So we talked about some cool live event type changes and different things we can do. What about the content? The tired old white paper. Like, do people even read white papers? What's the
I
deal?
mean, yeah, I mean, it sort of depends on what you're looking for, right? If you
Right.
need like solutions focused descriptions of things, like a white
Right.
paper is sort of it. Ebook is a little less commitment and a little easier to read, shorter snippets, that sort of thing. And a little bit more creative is sort of how I associate them with. They're by and
Yeah.
large the same thing. But
Right.
yeah, my thing with the challenge is that you have to have the capacity to understand how people are engaging with your content. And the PDF is the wrong vehicle. It's
Hmm.
not trackable. It can be trackable if you have the right tools. And if you are sort of developer minded, you can sort of place things in the right place. But, and I just learned that a little while ago in terms of being able to understand engagement of PDFs. But if you're sort of an everyday B2B marketer, I think that the default is to use a PDF. And I think that
Right.
there's just better vehicles and better ways to distribute that content. Again, I sort of go back to the microsite, or I'd rather take, a 10-page ebook whittle it down to be like the ultimate resource that is maybe housed on your blog or housed as a dedicated page. And it just becomes a resource that people are constantly linking back to. You can constantly build on it as things evolve over time. You're not committed to just publishing it. I think with an ebook or a PDF, you publish it once. And then if you want to update it, that's a whole new asset that you have to create, and a whole new version that the people that downloaded it the first time might not have access to. And so where you have these mega resources or, skyscraper resources on your blog or your website somewhere, those are just better opportunities to understand how people are engaging with your content and where they're dropping off and what they're linking to and what they're referencing. I just think we rely too much on this whole gated ebook, gated PDF part of our playbook. And it's, everyone knows what's going to happen. You're going to have an SDR in my inbox within 12 hours asking me how I like the download and whether or not I want to set up time for a demo. And that's just not the way to do it anymore.
Yeah. It's almost lame. It's like cheesy eye roll. It's the eye roll emoji, right?
It's expected. Yeah.
It's like oh my gosh, palm to face, so trite.
And what's going to happen.
Yeah. But and it ties back into your point about control too. But also nobody links to someone else's landing page. Oh, hey, there's a great resource over here. I mean, I'm going to go link to their lead gen. No, but if you had it out in the open, hey, this is a mega resource. This is like a constantly updating resource.
Yeah.
At this link, now you get the inbound traffic, you get a little SEO magic.
Yeah.
Google doesn't care what's behind your form. They're not going to go look at you, fill out your form and go look at your PDF. They're like, no, that's fine. We'll have a spider crawl on top,
Yeah. Yeah. And think about sharing, my team, we share different things on Slack. If I'm sharing a PDF from one person to another on Slack, you're not tracking any of that activity. You have no idea. So
that's true. Yeah. That's true. You could be the most read PDF in your whole arsenal and you'd have no idea.
Right. And those things are not easy to put together. They're heavy lifts, and you put a lot of content resources into developing that stuff, and for very little or very little return, or return that you just don't have visibility into. So.
And in the tracking too, you don't, not only do you, you can host a PDF in like a Pardot or something, and if somebody's looked at it, but it ends there, and especially if they download it, to your point on they're sharing it, you have no idea.
Yeah.
Which may be okay because we're trying to get away from control, but at the same time, if you had it somewhere persistent, you can keep modifying it, you keep it up to date, and you could also see on page, what do people look at? There's a lot of tech.
Exactly.
Have you seen those lately where it's you can see people live scrolling?
No.
Yeah, there's this app called Qualified. It's like web chat for Salesforce and Pardot, and we've had them on this before. But when you're looking at, it's not just web chat, but as you're chatting with people, you can see what they're looking at on your site live.
Interesting. That's awesome.
Right. Now you could be creepy with it, or you could just know that they're looking but at least now what part of your resource are they looking at, as opposed to they went off to PDF land. I can't see.
Yeah. Or, and it gives you, that just sort of helps you mind map other topics. Everyone's hovering around this. This is where we're getting the most clicks. This is whatever.
Yeah.
Let's create more resources around this and just sort of develop off of that and continue that cycle. And that just helps your content team be much more efficient and effective in what they're doing and what they're developing.
Right. Right. Now, have I made this question too much two-dimensional? There's the live event webinar thing, and then there's the content. Is there anything else? Does this new playbook need another category of content that we're not even discussing?
Yeah, probably. So listen, I think in general, B2B marketers need to get out of their own way. Yeah. And I think we're sort of, we're sacrificing creativity for our sort of lead forecasts. And that's a big generalized statement. Certainly there are B2B marketers that are doing really fun, awesome things and they're being creative. But I think, there's opportunities to, again, I think revisiting those things that don't scale and making things more personalized and more engaging is just a huge opportunity. I think, I forget in what way that I did this, but do you remember back in the day? It's probably back in the day.
Yeah.
It's probably 2009.
Right.
HubSpot,
which apparently is a long time ago, but
I'm dating myself, right?
You had said 2001. I'd still think recent, but apparently it's not even recent anymore.
Right. So 2009, HubSpot used to do HubSpot Live. Do you remember that? Where they would have people in their offices. I think it was Thursday afternoons or Friday afternoons.
Yes, I've been to that.
That would kill right now.
It was Mike Volpe and somebody who made fun of him the whole time.
I forget her name, but they were great. They were
Yes,
super,
it
like,
was
they would
her.
banter off of each other.
Yeah.
And that content would kill right now. I think, like, having something perpetual, live, scheduled every week, not every company can sort of pull that off, but if you dedicate the right resources to it, they covered news, they covered trends, they had guest, people, and it was live. You could hear people in the office sort of booing and cheering and, like, sort of weighing in on the things that they were talking about. And it was imperfect. And I think that is something that people want to see more of, sort of these polished assets. That sort of one and done approach is something to be evolved, I bet. I think, we sort of, again, need to get out of our own way from being perfect and sort of polished, and just start putting stuff out there. I think like the raw content, especially, like, my kids are in school today, they have a hybrid model, but if they weren't in school, like, you'd see them back there, like, hanging out with each other
They'd be
and
running around.
Yeah. Like, it's just, we're all in this and we're all doing the best we can. But I think in the spirit of just shipping stuff and seeing what works, like, it can't be perfect. It can't be, it can't be something that's done the same way
Did
every
you ever
time.
go to that live event?
I did once. Yeah.
Yeah.
Our offices we were in, like, Woburn or something. It wasn't
Okay.
like down the streets, but
if you're,
yeah, it was
like, in
interesting.
the
It was fun.
neighborhood for a social media event or something, it's just
Yes,
like swing
exactly. When
by.
we remember tweet ups, like,
Yeah.
obviously we can't do that now presently in a
Right.
safe way, but just stuff like that. Let's get back to that more personalized, engaging, like, human connection around thought leadership. I think is just a huge opportunity. And it's, it'll force more people to be innovative, because what will happen is that, again, we're talking about this sort of nurture stream of white paper, BDR call, whatever, like, people, it's not a long-term strategy. And I think once we start to see numbers that aren't supporting that, we're going to be forced to sort of rethink the playbook.
We'll have to get out of it. Just the numbers don't support it. There will still be people that are hanging on to it with gripped hands, but it's like those same people are hanging on to, like, radio ads and some of these other things. It's like, billboards and, my goodness.
Maybe it's definitely like, it's just something that, you can't sort of rest on those tried and true things now, because budgets have also gone down with the pandemic. Headcount has gone down. You're forced to do more with less. And so I think we either have to be creative because the old ways aren't working anymore, or because we don't have the resources we used to. So either way, I think the pandemic is going to result in a lot more innovative B2B marketing.
Yeah. It's kind of like you need to, or you're going to continue to lose eyeballs.
Yeah. And I just think, like, the more you can do things that other people aren't doing, the more likely you are to find a sticking point and something that hooks into people.
Yeah.
I definitely think, like, more things like this, where we're just having a conversation and opening things up to people. I think it's, a lot of people are trying to create more content. But it has to be in a way that's not like everybody else in the same. So
totally. And even with this, you mentioned earlier, it's the idea of, like, not everything that has to scale. I've been in that mindset too, where I'm just like, how do I scale this? Well, maybe just pause on that for a second to see if it works anyways, and don't worry about the scaling, maybe,
Yeah. I think I'd rather participate in something with 10 high quality leads, or high quality sort of perfect looking leads for our sales team, than something with 100 people and none of them are interested in what we're doing.
Well, that gets into, like, ABM and just the idea of targeting people and going after the right few instead of just blasting everyone.
Yeah. Yep. And that's definitely something that people have to wrap their heads around. Like, we're going after these 30 really promising opportunities and spending really high quality time and resources against them, versus just the whole spray and pray approach.
Yeah. 100%. And even that, you're saying how even the HubSpot Live wasn't perfect. And I think, doesn't, brand it, but doesn't have to always be perfect, especially the live stuff or the recording, these conversations. I love it because the opposite is the sort of the CNN approach of the perfected 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, the amount of work we would do, and I don't know if it would have the same, it might, but, like, some people do that, but, like, okay, Sandra, you can only talk for like 8 minutes, and everything you want to get across, you have to get across. You do it perfectly.
Yeah.
Some
Here's
people
your
might like that.
script. Yeah.
Here's your script. Yeah. And then you start to sound like one of those slide decks. Hello,
Yeah.
everyone. Thank you for coming. Here's my point. Here's my second point. Here's my second point. And then there's a lot of ideas that come from just hashing something out with someone else.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like a live brainstorm. I think,
Yeah.
you come away with a lot more value and other ideas rather than something that's canned and rehearsed. And it just sort of opens you up for opportunity to sort of think differently about things.
Yeah. What about brand? How are people messing up? How does the brand apply to the old playbook versus the new? I mean, people going brand crazy, and should they be? And what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, so from my perspective, companies should be approaching brand with as much zeal as direct response, right? So I think, don't get me wrong, I've been in positions where I've brought direct response mentality and metrics to things like public relations or certain like events or other things that people just sort of go at with an awareness or branding mindset. It's always nice to see some metrics flowing, but I don't think that there's harm in doing more brand awareness. So for Thrasio, we're still a very new company. We're only about 2 years old, but I think that, and we're growing our awareness in the market, but I think that there's value in doing things like display ads, which are not inherently direct response driven,
Right.
or doing podcasts, and that sort of thing. It's a very specific awareness play.
Right.
We're not expecting like one given podcast to be an open flow of lead gen for us. So,
Right. Yeah.
so I think, people just sort of, again, I love to evaluate all opportunities from like, oh, what's the upside? But by and large, we're not going to say no to something that that is on the smaller scale, because you never know if that exact right prospect is listening or watching or clicking around on a website. So I definitely think awareness, brand drives demand, and I think it accelerates demand. So I think that just focusing on direct response activity is the wrong way to go. You're missing the huge sort of pool of people up at the top that start to, they start to see your logo. They start to see your like, oh, I've heard of that company. Where have I heard of them? Oh yeah, I know what they do. Haven't actually talked to anybody at the company. Haven't downloaded any of their content, but I actually know what they do. And so there's that sort of mentality of like, we can't sort of be bottom of the funnel focused entirely. It accelerates those conversations by having those more awareness metrics and activities sort of out there.
Yeah. There's really like a value to both. It's almost like having it in balance, maybe,
Totally.
rather than like being so gung ho about brand and you forget your metrics that you need, or you go so direct that you're like selling laptops at Best Buy or something.
Right. Or you just
Home
refuse
Depot.
to do those activities that like, if it's not driving leads and we're not doing it, it's like, that's not the right mentality.
Right. Yeah. So it just both. It's almost like keep them in balance. Keep an eye on both of them. Mind them both. Um, it's almost like how when you look at doing PPC and organic, and SEO.
Yeah.
You often hear if you do PPC, you get a lift in your organic. I don't think it's Google just giving you a benefit. I think it's just that like all the ships rise because they've already
Yeah.
seen your name and they click on your name, and so they're more likely
Exactly.
to. And so it makes sense to do things here and then things here, and then it all kind of comes together like a display. It would normally drive a bunch of people in, but maybe if it's part of a bigger campaign, it might be something that thing that really drops the hammer.
Right. I think, an example would be if you're running display ads and then you're on, you're doing a digital conference or something, or if you're, putting out launching your own podcast or something. I think like you might be more inclined to subscribe to a podcast and I've heard of the company over and over again. And I understand, oh yeah, this is what they do. And that's the right space that I want to sort of learn more about. And I just think it just adds that level of credibility. I've heard of them is like a credibility metric that is tough to track, but I think it's very undervalued right now.
Yeah, totally get that. I mean, that's the case. Yeah, crazy. Where does this all go? If you were to like look at your crystal ball.
No, it's interesting. I think, we talked about ABM a little bit. I think that companies of all sizes are going to sort of hone in on that a lot more. And a lot of companies are sort of creating those resources that are applicable to sort of a smaller pool of prospects.
Yeah.
I definitely think that I think the brand accelerating demand is something that people are going to sort of reconcile and understand that, we have to do the things that that just generate more awareness and aren't inherently lead generating activities, because there's something in that familiarity of knowing what a company is before you're in a need state, before you have this challenge that that they might be able to solve. And so I think that we'll see more CMOs, more B2B marketers sort of wrapping their head around doing things that are just sort of awareness driven, and not sort of being, like I said, not being tied to this lead forecast, and really valuing quality over quantity.
Yeah, I think the more it goes in that direction, like the better it's going to be for everyone. We're all going to experience a much better marketing.
Yeah, I think it respects your audience's time right now. I think, think about the way, like, I'm a B2B marketer, and when I am consuming content, it's because I have a very specific need. If I have a very specific challenge that only a piece of software can help with, then I'm more inclined to go direct. And so I don't know, I just sort of like put, I've marketed to B2B marketers a large part of my career. And I think that there's something to be said for just thinking about how you consume content and how you work with vendors and service providers on your own. And like, what's that perfect scenario? I don't know that I've ever responded to a LinkedIn message of someone trying to sell me a video asset or a piece of software or a lead scoring app or something. I don't know, whatever exists. Like, I don't know that I've responded to any of them, because I'm not in that need. I'm not in that need state. And so when I'm ready, then I'll go looking for it.
Right. And not until then, and please don't call me.
Right. Like, I'm not going to respond.
I heard the other day the idea of, it was Alex Goldfein, and he was saying that people aren't calling as much because they're Zooming more. Have you gotten a lot of sales calls lately, or is everyone on Zoom these days?
So I've worked from home for about 10 years.
Yeah.
I don't know that I've ever gotten calls. I might have I also use a fake phone number in forms. Good. Like, I don't want calls.
No,
I don't even talk to people on the phone that I know in real life.
Really?
So,
you don't?
No, if you call my phone right now, my voicemail will pick up and it will say, "Thank you so much for calling. Please do me a favor, hang up and text me at the number you just dialed." I tell people to text me. I don't want to.
Really?
Yeah.
Now, you do not like calling in general?
It's very different from how we grew up, right? When we grew up, people just call just to sort of shoot the shit, and you didn't need a reason. Nowadays, it's like you need a reason. And I'm not saying like I'm not open to chit chatting, but it's just sort of like nowadays we live our lives in a certain way. We're like, I know what I'm doing now, I know what I'm doing then, and so on and so forth. And text messaging, you're much more likely to just get me quickly. And if that, that sort of thing is, and even if it's like, hey, it's so-and-so, we got to chat, call me, that's fine. But from a sales perspective, I'm not going to answer my phone. I don't pick up my phone 99% of the time. Actually, I did this test last year where I picked up every phone call that came my way for 2 weeks, whether or not it was like a known number, unknown number. And I regretted it. It was like, this is awful.
It was all crap.
It's just spam calls or whatever, just sort of like telemarketers and not necessarily for B2B. It could be, people trying to sell me stuff for the house or I don't know, stuff like that. But it's just like, I never want to invite this into my phone.
Whenever I get a number I don't know, but it says it's from New Hampshire, I'm like, right. Because there's someone in New Hampshire I don't already have in my phone. I'm like, I'm not picking up this call.
No, absolutely
it's from Bedford
not.
Or it's from Portsmouth. I'm like, yeah, okay, it's from Portsmouth, sure.
Yeah. If they really need me, they can call me back. I will pay attention if it's like the same number that's called 4 times. Yeah. But leave a voicemail or text me if you want me to like pick up your unknown phone call. So yes, from a B2B perspective, I typically don't get phone calls.
So do you not chit chat anymore with friends? And when do you do that, if ever? Or has life just moved beyond that?
So I'm definitely, sort of in the life space that I'm in right now. Sure. It's definitely more like, hey, let's get together. Let's go and do this thing. We'll get coffee, we'll get dinner, whatever. Definitely pre-pandemic. Now it's like, all right, let's do a Zoom chat.
Right. Zoom happy hour.
Yeah. And, those sort of like waned, but I'm actually sort of getting back into them because I think like now where we're all, you sort of feel out like, all right, who's comfortable with getting in person and who would rather not. And I have friends that are, I'm up in New Hampshire, I have friends that are in Boston, I have friends in Miami, like I have friends in New York, like I can't see them all the time. So it's still nice to sort of not wait for those in-person moments to reconnect. So I'm sort of back on the Zoom happy hour train.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's just sort of like you definitely got tired of it by like May, but now I'm sort of getting back into it again. So that's my version of chit chat now.
That's exactly what happened. Because I remember the first couple months I was terribly unhappy because I need to be out there flapping my little butterfly wings, right?
Yeah.
So like I'm grounded, so it's like and so the happy hour was more of like one of, I don't know, convalescence or just like trying to like feed my inner wound of not being able to go out. But I eventually got over it, adjusted, and now I'm kind of cool with it. But I think it makes sense to kind of revisit it and more of just like, okay, this is what we're doing, so let's.
Yeah, I mean, we're, this is going to be a long-term thing. And again, like I said, there are some people that are comfortable with being in person. That's great. So you get that sort of in-person engagement and like chit chat and just social connection with people. But some people aren't, and that's totally fine. Everyone's going to emerge from this at their own pace.
I agree.
So I just think like, and again, it's so funny. Like I've had more Zoom chats with friends in, Florida or New York than I did pre-pandemic. And it's like, why weren't we always doing this?
Right.
So,
and we got to say, New Hampshire, we're one of like the most healthy COVID states ever.
Thank God. Yep.
Do you think it's that high, you know about like the high drinking per capita in New Hampshire?
Yeah.
Like we're like number one. We're like absolutely number one. I think maybe Massachusetts helps us with that.
Sure.
But yeah, hey, we're number one. So maybe that's what's COVID at bay, is that we drink more per capita up here.
Right. We have that like some sort of internal medicine.
Right. No, it's all the alcohol.
Exactly.
I don't know. Hey, who are you? Like I've known you for a long time, but who are you really? And actually, and so take us back in time, like little Sandra days. What was it like growing up? Did you always know you want to be a marketer? What was it like? Did you grow up in New Hampshire? Where'd you grow up?
Yeah, I grew up in New Hampshire. I'm in Bedford now, and I grew up in Manchester.
Okay.
And did some sort of combination of Catholic school and public school.
So no Adam Sandler with high school?
No, I went to West, which was his like rival high school or something. He was Central.
Got it.
I think. I don't know. Yeah. All those school districts are like changing now, but
I'm sure.
Yeah, truthfully, I didn't really know what I wanted to do until I think I saw, like, I don't know, high school age. I saw there was like some sort of MTV used to do True Life, MTV, like they started the reality show sort of concept.
Like The Real World or something.
Yeah, right? Stuff like that. And someone was doing public relations. Now this person was doing PR in New York, big time, rubbing elbows with editors and all that sort of thing. And I was like, ooh, that looks fun and social. And I was definitely more of an extrovert as a younger kid than I am now, but that looked fun. So I pursued a career in public relations. And after I graduated, I went into tech, like high tech PR.
Okay.
In Andover, Massachusetts, not New York.
Right.
And so I was like, well, this wasn't exactly what I thought it was going to be like. So
exactly what you signed up for.
Yeah. I think, when I was little, I was super outgoing and I wanted to be on theater, or on Broadway in theater. Yeah. And I wanted to sort of do things that were more outgoing and social. And now I've sort of carved my way into this like tech and e-commerce marketing, digital marketing thing. And it sort of allows me the sort of extroverted part of myself, but then working from home and doing things behind the scenes as a digital marketer is, help satisfy the sort of behind the scenes introvert that also kind of lags in there too.
Seriously. Now you did PR for a little bit though, right?
Yeah. I started with PR and this was like before social media.
Right.
We could email reporters, but a lot of us were still getting on the phones to pitch reporters. And I just never found my stride. I always felt whenever I picked the phone, I was bothering a reporter. Yeah. I always felt like I was like an unwanted phone call and that just wasn't cool. And I just never really worked. And then there was this client that we had that we would do their email marketing. And I had the opportunity to be on the account and it was like, I don't have to get on the phone and like bother someone to cover my client. I can actually just code their email and taught myself HTML, and it was like, oh, this is different. That's cool. And I'm not getting yelled at by an editor at the Wall Street Journal for interrupting their day and their deadline.
Right.
And all right, let's try this instead. So I sort of started to understand, the other thing that from a PR perspective, one of our clients was, do you remember the Search Engine Strategies conference series?
I maybe
Who was
Search Engine Strategies.
It was
SES?
SES.
Yeah.
They had SES New York, SES Chicago.
Yeah.
And so we did the PR, we manned the press room for SES.
Wow.
And when I wasn't in the press room, I would go like sneak into these sessions and I would learn about paid search and SEO.
Wow.
And so that got the wheels turning of like, oh, if I'm getting my clients press and they link back to my client's website, that's link building, and that's interesting. So all these things started to connect in like my little 22-year-old brain of like, oh, there's so much more out here. There's like a big scope of digital marketing that PR plays a part, but it's not the only part I want to be part of. It's, I want to get my hands in this whole web of things.
Right.
So then like, roles that I pursued after that were inherently more broad and generalist style. So it was a great foundation. And I think it gives me, a lens of like brand identity, thought leadership, like all that stuff I learned in PR and understanding and, making sure that our outward looking brand is very consistent across the board. I think that those lessons learned were critical. But I'm much happier in a more diverse role.
Totally. I did a little, like, I did comm too, and I did a PR internship at Swartz. I don't know if you remember them.
Yeah.
And
were they in Woburn? They're probably in Boston now.
Waltham, I think.
Waltham, that's right.
And it was like this big PR office. And was Pan that way for you too? Were they pretty big?
Well, so we were in Andover. We were probably like, before the recession, probably around 70 people maybe.
Okay.
They're much bigger now. They've gone through a crazy acquisition spree and they're global now.
But like these big PR, it's almost like Mad Men, and you're just like, wow. And it was an internship. It wasn't even paid. Like I would just like, it was a great company. They own the S key on the keyboard. It just seems so cool.
Right.
Logo. I'm like, wow, you own a whole letter.
Right.
Amazing. But awesome. The challenge with that for me, and I didn't get as far as like calling up those kind of editors, but it was almost like, in terms of the excitement, there was like a cool reporter for some cool thing, and then there was some cool CEO for some cool thing, and then you were like introducing them and like stepping out of it. So like you were facilitating, but I was like, I'd rather be either one of the other two. Like,
really?
I'll be the cool reporter, or like I'll be that person doing the crazy things. But like I want to be like in there and kind of being a part of the conversation, not just sort of like facilitating,
making the intros.
Yeah. So PR wasn't my deal either, but it was an interesting background, and I wonder what they even do these days. Like press is so different.
Yeah. It's interesting. The last couple of roles I've had, I've been in a position to hire a PR firm or a PR resource. And so, it's funny coming from my lens. It's like, I know the tricks. I know about billability. I know about how your junior person's less expensive than your VP, and just sort of like all those types of things. And, there's definitely a lot more resources and firms out there now that sort of, have gotten away from that model and are a lot more transparent about what they do. But at the end of the day, when I hire a PR resource, it's because I have a gap in skills, and that gap is media coverage. It's not like if a social media, a lot of them are very, they're sort of multifaceted. They do social media, they do thought leadership, content creation, they place bylines, they do events and all that sort of thing. And those resources are great. I've always sort of cherry picked the skill sets that I need to sort of fill the gap on. And for PR resources, it's always like, I need media coverage. I don't have relationships with reporters. That's the thing that I need you to do. But a lot of them are, like I said, they'll do social and content and events and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, that's true. I think a lot of it ties into a lot more of the content creation, like podcasts and whatnot these days too.
Yeah. And there's a plenty of like industry publications that are, their masthead has been reduced over the last few years. They don't necessarily have the content resources. So they'll look to vendors and thought leaders to create articles and videos and all that sort of thing. So.
Right. Huh. Well, I have a hypothetical for you.
Okay.
I may or may not have a time machine down here in Nashua. It's probably in my backyard, covered with is it a gray tarp? Gray tarp. So it's in the back. Squirrels are kind of running it. So after COVID, we cleaned it off, right? And get the squirrels out of the way. You can use the time machine, but it goes back to a particular time. It goes back to like a couple days after your graduation when you got your degree.
Okay. Yep.
Sort of starting things out. If you could go back, and it's yourself you get to meet back in time. So you can go back in time and meet Sandra from those days. What kind of advice would you give her? What kind of things would you tell her?
I would definitely tell her to trust her gut. So I think there's a lot that happens in PR and digital marketing that is generated through common sense, frankly. I think that there's a lot of, when you know how to read people and you know how to read scenarios and situations, you can get really far in understanding when you're able to sort of connect the dots. That will open up so many opportunities to be one step ahead of things. And I think, if things don't feel right, they're probably not. And don't be afraid to speak up. This is something that I'm trying to teach my kids right now, is like, it took me until I was in my 30s, early 30s, to feel comfortable asking dumb questions. And I think I'd rather sit there, young Sandra in a conference room at the age of 25, would rather sit there in silence than try to clarify something or try to ask a question to get more information. And that was just the wrong way to go. Trust your gut. And when you don't know something, don't wait to ask, get clarification. And I only really felt comfortable doing that in the last 10 years or so. So that's definitely two things that I wish I did more of earlier in my career.
Yeah. There's something about just asking questions. It's like early on, we think that when we're asking questions, we're the one that doesn't know.
Yeah, exactly.
But
We're afraid of looking stupid.
But it takes us like decades to realize that actually,
right,
nobody else knows either.
No one knows. We're all figuring it out at the same time. Yeah.
Yeah. In class or at work, no one actually knows. So you're actually the hero for asking the question.
Exactly. I can think of my senior year math class. I don't know why, there's weird things that stick out.
Totally.
This is one of them. There was one girl that always asked all the questions. And I remember sitting there being like, oh, thank God she's in my class. She's getting all the she's asking all the questions that I'm too scared to ask.
Yeah.
And I was like, thank God she's asking these questions. And I wish I was that person more.
Right.
And I'm happy to be that person now for someone, but yeah, it took a while to get there.
Yeah, it takes some time. So you would tell yourself about that, like go with your gut and ask those questions. Now, would younger you have listened to you?
Probably not.
You have to shake her a little bit. Come on.
Maybe. I think I'd probably be too self-conscious about the question thing, but I think I finally in a place where I feel really comfortable with myself and just what I know and what I've learned through my career. There's imposter syndrome. Totally. I don't think that ever goes away. And I think you just have to lean into it and be like, listen, sorry if I sound stupid for asking this question, but I just need clarification. And the worst case scenario is that you just confirm what you already knew.
Right.
And best case scenario is you get a whole new piece of information that helps you do your job better. So I just it's not that I wouldn't have listened. I just wouldn't have been ready to do it, I think.
Right. And whether people think you're stupid or the teacher's pet or whatever doesn't have as much staying power as you think it does. They may not even work here tomorrow.
Exactly.
And that person may not even be in your class, or who cares?
Right. And little do you know, the 5 other people in this conference room of 30 also had that same question.
Right. So. And if they didn't, fine. Okay. Now you know there's something that apparently everyone knows about and you don't. So probably something to learn.
Now I'm up to speed.
Yeah, totally. Man.
Yeah.
Craziness. So what are you doing these days? You picked up any COVID hobbies?
Oh,
you got the kids finally back to school?
I have the kids finally back to school. Yeah. My hobby was parenting extra hours during the week when they were typically at camp or at school. Yeah. I actually, I earlier in the summer, I needed to do a bit of a social media detox. So I'm just reading more than I did before. Full disclosure, wasn't a big I just didn't make the time to read. And so I'm definitely picking up more books these days, which is nice.
What kind?
But yeah, I think right now I'm also a multitasking reader. I'm reading 3 books at a time right now. I'm reading Building a Story Brand, Emotional Intelligence 2.0, and I just finished, what's it called? I forget what it's called. The secrets of not giving a fuck, or how to know. What is that called? What is that book? It was big a couple years ago, and I had it on my book stand or my nightstand for like years. And I just finally was like, all right, I've
That's
had
the
this sitting
book.
here
That's
for a
what it's
while.
called.
Yeah. It's like
There's literally a book called that. I mean, is it a different one?
Yeah. It's like, I'm going to have to Google now.
Secrets of Not Giving a Fuck. Humorous Guide to Stop.
No, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck.
The
That's what it
Subtle
is,
Art.
from Mark Manson. It's probably very similar content, but yeah, so it's, that one I just finished, but now I'm going to double down on Emotional Intelligence 2.0. Is a very easy read. I like that.
Sure.
And then Story Brand is obviously just honing that marketing skill
Story
a little
Brand's
bit
great.
more.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
Anything you recommend? And by the way, these are all nonfiction marketing books. You're not pulling in some fiction or anything like that?
I've tried. I've done like there's an author named Sloane Crosley, and she does like short stories. I'm definitely more of a short story person. I just don't have the I don't know. I don't get hooked easily, and so a short story is like a good pace for me. So yeah, that's more my thing. Definitely nonfiction is more my genre.
You
For
set
sure.
a
I'm
higher
all about
standard
the
for your fiction.
I guess I don't know. Like if I'm going to just immerse myself in fiction, I'd rather watch it on TV or in a movie theater. Like it's a little less commitment that way. Yeah. And then I'm big into sort of the just learning, just a sponge for learning more information. Totally. So nonfiction has just always been like a thing that I turn to just to get a little bit of an edge on additional thoughts and content. So
yeah, totally. It's cool to just keep learning and keep adding things. I've heard someone say a couple times now that like progress is happiness. Happiness is progress.
Totally. It's so funny. I was thinking about this. So I have a friend that runs like a fitness and wellness group, and she's talking about goal setting. And I'm not a New Year's resolution person. Sure. I'm not a goal setter necessarily. Progress to me is fun. Learning is fun. That is the goal, is like continuing to hone my knowledge in certain areas. And I think like that makes me incredibly happy. I'm not one of these like set a goal, put your 3, 6, 9 month plan against it and what you're going to do every day to get there. And it's like, no, momentum is great. I think and progress is perfection. That's a great quote. And I love it.
I'm with you on not mapping out every single detail of how I get there. I have found though that like end of the year, I have this like Google Doc where I'll just put down, first of all, like try to evaluate, like, how am I doing? How's like fitness? How's family? How's job, finances, all these things, like anything lacking, anything I should focus on this year? And then what are some crazy goals? And done this like a couple years now. Again, not very good at it. And but like this year I was supposed to do Mount Kilimanjaro, but then it got pushed to next year. But what was interesting is I looked back and I had like maybe 3 years worth. It didn't come out of nowhere. I like had literally years ago I'd been like, you know what, crazy idea, but like I want to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. But like and I kept putting it. And then it was like, this year's going to happen.
I'm gonna do it.
Wow, it's so crazy if you just keep putting these things down. I mean, some don't. Like I was like, I want to learn to juggle. And my brain was like, you can juggle too. And that's about it.
Right.
But like
plant some seeds and see what happens.
Just putting it out there and being like, you know what, that direction, let's see what happens. And then you're right. You have to get pleasure out of the progress. Otherwise you're going to be miserable. Yeah. Yeah.
100%. I'm definitely, I'm not saying that like goal setting is not the right way to do things. It's just not, I'm not necessarily motivated by like always looking to the next thing. I like the process. And so that's sort of, I've done, actually I was doing a little bit of goal setting activity around like March, April, and mostly it was like to not dig myself into a hole like mentally when COVID hit. So it was sort of like, okay, I'm going to reduce my social media usage. I'm going to go to bed at 10 o'clock every night. I'm going to like just stuff like that was just helpful for like keeping a good mental capacity through those first few like unknown months. But
it can be really helpful to be intentional about that, right? Because otherwise you end up doing all sorts of weird things to cover for yourself and
and then your own sort of self-care and health stuff. It's just
bounce back after that. I think for me sometimes it's the challenges. Like that kind of ties into, so I like the progress, but I also like setting some kind of scary goal. Like, I don't know if I can do that.
Can I do it? Yeah.
Like I set a goal, it was like 2 months ago, of like push-ups. Someone was like, try that push-up challenge, join me in that. I was like, okay. So it was like 1,000 push-ups in a month from none, and so I was like, okay, this is hard, but I had there's like an app for it.
Did you do it?
Yeah, I had this app called Push Up Hero, like
Cool.
Of course, push-up hero. Now I'm
right.
And then last month, I tried to make it 2,000 because I'm like, let's just increment this.
Yeah.
But I found out quickly, if you don't stay with it, it's like school. You can't learn calculus the night of the final, right? You can't catch up on. There's only so many push-ups you can do in a day.
Yeah.
So I was like, I didn't do it last month, but this month I've got a birthday coming up, which is making me feel really old. So I was like,
is it a
before my
milestone?
birthday, what's that?
Is it a milestone birthday?
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And so I'm like, oh no. So I'm going to do 4,000 push-ups in like honor of like the big 40.
Yeah.
So 4,000 push-ups, that's actually a lot of push-ups. And first second day, my body's like mad at me. It's still mad at me. My stomach's mad at me. Everything's mad. But so far so good. But I know that I can't like drop off because then to make up for like a missed there's so many. It's like 137 a day or some goofy number like that. So yes,
well, you just gotta break them up in like increments of 10 or 20, like different parts of the day.
Yeah, you have to. Right. Because again, you can't leave it at lessons I'm teaching myself here. I can't leave it till the end of the month or the end of the day. Like, oh, it's nighttime, time to go to bed.
I do 137 push-ups before I have to go to bed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wild,
no, it's a good point. Like breaking down those goals into smaller pieces. I mean, it definitely, it at least creates that action plan that gets you going. Which a lot of people just start at the goal and then they're like, oh, it's hard. Right. I don't want, you gotta sort of start somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah. And like literally after this podcast, I'm probably going to need to do something because
nice.
I'm looking at the clock going like, I'm going to bed in a little bit. Like,
right. So. You're making me realize how much water I haven't drank today. Like typically by the end of the day, I've finished like one of these and I still got a lot left in there.
I know the water thing is just a constant. I mean, there's apps for it. Have you done like a water app?
No,
there's one where every time you drink a glass of water, it feeds a plant and you can pick what plant.
Oh,
it's so cute.
That's cute.
But the amount of water this plant wants you to drink is a little much. Like, they should have a custom amount so you can like, okay, well, I can keep the cactus going with 6, and then I can have, if I really want to go with 8, I can get this thing growing. But no, it's like my plant was dying day 3. And then it's like just calling out to me for help.
Oh God, I can't commit to that.
I can't fix you, plant.
And then you feel guilty. It's like the Tamagotchi all over again.
And my kids have one. Do your kids have one?
No, not yet.
How old are they?
7 and 5.
Okay, I'm 7 and 9.
Oh, all right. I'll have to look into it. They have this like, I think it's something else on Facebook Messenger. They have a pet that they have to sort of fix and curate and play with every day. Either that or they're just telling me these things so that they can get screen time, which is totally viable.
Oh my gosh, the screen time thing is crazy. But like I actually had their Tamagotchi last night. I don't know what I'm doing, but I figured out how to feed it cake.
Oh my gosh.
And it'll always say yes to cake. Hamburgers, it'll say no once it's full. But if you eat too much cake, then whatever bad things happen.
Ew, yeah.
And I kept feeding it cake. And I was like, what are you doing? And I was like, oh, just feeding your child a little cake. Like just spoiling it like when I'm a grandparent will do. Like just spoiling my grandchild here with cake. They're like, Dad, like, no. Like it'll get sick, Like, oh, well, not too much cake then. Don't bring him over to grandfather's house. Like,
yeah, right. That's awesome.
Crazy. So, hey, where can people connect with you if they want to reach out? Just connect.
Definitely on LinkedIn. So Sandra Rand on LinkedIn. I'm not on Twitter. I'm just not on Twitter as much as I was.
You're like definitely a thing these days.
It's I always have the best intentions. Like I want to go on there and sort of get back to where we're. I think you and I like met on Twitter and at Tweet Ups, and so I would love to like get back into.
Wouldn't you?
Sort of engaging with people that way. I just haven't carved out the time to do it. So I'm on Twitter. Can't promise that I'll necessarily follow you back right away, but definitely hit me up there. And Thras.io is the company website that we just launched yesterday. Just relaunched our new branding, which I'm very excited about. But sick. Hit me up through work and
Right on. Yeah, LinkedIn sounds like the place to go. Twitter, if you don't want a response, hit her up on Twitter.
Right.
If you do, try LinkedIn.
Twitter is definitely my like parenting, lamenting, and complaining. Like LinkedIn is actually more of a professional. Like
right.
Work together.
Yeah, for me, Twitter can be like random photos versus. You doing the Instagram too?
So. Taking a little break from Instagram, a little break from TikTok, taking a little break from Facebook.
Oh, did you do TikTok or you just?
No, I lurked.
You
I was a
lurked.
lurker. I
Okay.
never created TikTok. I'm almost 40. I don't think that's allowed.
Right.
Um,
Right. That was the advice from
so
my friends too. They're like, you can look, but you cannot be on it.
no, definitely not. So yeah, just doing a little detox. I think pandemic, election, back to school, all sort of
Totally.
got together in a big gray cloud. And it's like, I just need to step back a little bit. So
Yeah.
don't get me
Interesting.
wrong. Twitter is not a healthy place to be either right now, but
Twitter,
I'm only
please.
checking in on there once in a while.
Toxic land. I've basically made Instagram my like little private hideaway of like,
Smart.
I only follow like mountain climbers and like fitness
So
people
smart. That's what I
and
should do.
happy people. And then like,
Just unfollow a ton of things.
yeah,
Ton of
yeah.
people.
And so on Facebook, it's like dark and like news stories of horrible things happening 9,000
Yeah.
miles away and all these things. Instagram is like happy people doing happy things and like
I
big
like
tall
it.
mountains. And I'm
That's a
like,
good way to do it. I like it. That's smart.
totally.
I should
So
do that.
abandon everything else. I'd probably, if I had to give them all up, LinkedIn has a star because you have to do LinkedIn.
You
But like,
got to.
I would just
There's
keep
great reach
Instagram.
now. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, totally. Imagine people start using it like TikTok. Then it's
If I
over.
see a CEO dancing in my feed,
There's
then
what?
if I see a CEO dancing in my feed, like we're jumping the shark here.
Yeah, I'm out. Calling the
We'll see.
choppers.
Yeah. Yeah. But hey, I mean, going back to what we were first starting, like using it in a different way might just be the thing. So
Maybe
no judgment.
maybe she heard you on this podcast and was like, I'm gonna
Right. I
pull out
can't
this.
wait to see TikToks on LinkedIn.
Right.
That'll be great.
Especially if Microsoft has both of them, right? If they buy
Yeah.
TikTok, have they bought it yet? Or they were threatening to buy it
They're
or something.
talking about it. I think Walmart is also a potential. I don't know. I got to catch up. Again, like not being on
I
social.
prefer Walmart to buy it just so Microsoft
I
doesn't do some
agree.
goofy thing where they like put it all on our LinkedIn feed as like TikTok feed.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and you know, I don't know. Yeah. You got to think about what the long-term game is there. So I think
True.
it could be an interesting buy for Walmart. I think they're not shy to sort of innovate and do new things. So that could be cool.
I'd be happy with Walmart. Like
Yeah.
usually whatever Microsoft gets, they like they broke Skype. I don't know what happened, but
Yeah.
they haven't broken LinkedIn yet. So
No,
fingers
but
crossed.
LinkedIn, there's tons of amazing things about LinkedIn, but there's more that, they could trim the fat. Let's say that. I think that
That's
there's
true.
some things that are sort of lingering on LinkedIn that don't need to be there anymore. So
Yeah, and they keep adding weird things too. So at least they're innovating.
yeah, we'll see.
We'll see.
I think there's a deadline on that TikTok thing though, right? We should
Oh
find
my
out in the next
goodness. We'll
couple.
see what happens.
Mm,
State of the universe is in their hands.
we shall see.
Oh man. Well, this has been awesome. Thank you so much for coming on here.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me. This is fun.
Yeah, right. And that's the way marketing should be. Just like
Yeah. Just
fun,
riffing and learning
good.
and chatting. I love it.
Totally. Totally.
Cool.
And for those people listening, if you learned something, and I freaking know you did, because I've got 2 pages of notes front and back, then share this with someone. And the best way to do that is on LinkedIn or TikTok. And I don't know how you would do that.
See what happens. Or Twitch. Throw it out
Or
there.
Twitch. But tag us, tag Sandra, tag myself, and we'll comment in there and join the conversation. That's what thought leadership is. Just sharing things you've learned and your takeaways with your friends. That's the way to do it. So
Yep.
awesome. Thank you again, Sandra. This has been the best.
Yeah, of course. So great to chat with you.
Right on. For those people listening, this has been the Hardcore Marketing Show. We will catch you all next time.